Welcome to Spotlite Radio. Spotlite is the place to meet the most interesting people, executives, professionals, and today's most notable experts share their wealth of knowledge and vast experience with us live. Listen and learn in depth directly from today's leaders and tomorrow's highest climbers. Spotlite Radio shines on the people that you want to hear every day, on demand and in real time on SpotliteRadio.com. The world's most fascinating people are right here on Spotlite Radio.
Welcome to Spotlite Radio. I'm your host, Jessica Stern. Today we are proud to put the spotlight on Rebecca Hierholzer. Rebecca, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you. Rebecca Hierholzer is the CEO and Medical Director at Coversa, based in Kansas City, Missouri. So, Rebecca, tell us a bit about your company, how you got started.
Well, we have been providing services to victims of sexual assault for the past 13 years now. And in the last few years, we've been able to expand our services to 13 different hospitals in the Kansas City area. And that allows us to get people from up to 26 different counties surrounding the Kansas City metropolitan area to receive our services. So we're very, very proud of that fact. So, we provide the nurses that do the exams. We're available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And in addition to providing those services for victims of sexual assault, which includes a medical forensic exam, making sure that they have their injuries addressed, if any, and offering them STD prophylaxis, sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV, prophylaxis against unwanted pregnancy. We also connect them with the local advocacy group to make sure they get their counseling after this horrendous event in their life. We work with the detectives, going over our records with the detectives, and we work with the prosecutors too. Our nurses are recognized as expert witnesses when they go to court to relate all the information they gained from their forensic exam of the victim at the time of the assault. We also do education to the community, going to high schools and colleges, talking about sexual assault, making them aware of things. And we're working on a campaign now where we're wanting to get more education out to the community because we need better jurors when our victims go to court.
And this is definitely some very serious content, so I'd like to thank you for your bravery to share it with us, because it's definitely something that should be more brought to the light when it comes to education on sexual assault and how to go about it. So if you'll tell us a bit more about what happens when it comes to sexual assaults. Is it there's this, people think out there that it is strangers, when in fact it happens more often with people you know. If you could explain this a bit better than I can.
Well, you're exactly right. It's not the person that jumps out from behind the bushes and grabs you as you're walking down the street. More than likely it's somebody you know, somebody who's your neighbor, somebody who lives in your same apartment complex, somebody who works in your office, maybe not a good friend, but somebody you see every once in a while. And that's the reality of it. And that's what makes it so hard to prosecute these cases when they go to court, because the victims often know they're offenders, and it becomes that in the eyes of the jury, well, it's a he said, she said type of situation, not really an assault, maybe just something just didn't go right or something, and they really can't believe that this happened.
And when this does happen and a woman goes in to get tested, to get an examination, if you'll tell us a bit more about this process.
Well, it's a very long process. It's probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours where the nurses interview the patient. They have to get a complete medical history because you are going to be given medications later. and documenting current medications and allergies, making sure that what we want to give them are not going to have bad outcomes with their current medications. They get a complete physical exam to rule out any injury. We get a complete history of the sexual assault, and that can be very uncomfortable, asking a person where they've been touched, what went where. That could be very, very uncomfortable for them to answer those types of questions. But my nurses need to know those questions because they need to go to those areas to try to recover evidence of the touching in that area. And so this process can be very long. And the thing about it is that victims vary from very emotional to very stoic. There's not a standard emotional response to this kind of assault. And for those that are very emotional, sometimes those cases take longer because we never try to rush through this. So to say that it could only be an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours, sometimes it can be even longer depending on how our victim feels.
And when it comes to the testing, trying to find evidence, proof of any liquids, to say the least, when it comes to any type of trace of the sexual assault, should the person who has been sexually assaulted shower before getting tested?
Oh, no. We want them to come to one of our hospitals as soon as possible. There's a lot of evidence that is on the skin or on the clothing, and if you take off your clothes and take a shower, there's a lot of evidence that we can use. Even going to the bathroom or drinking or smoking, we really would prefer if you would just come right in or as soon as possible something has happened so that we can do our best at collecting all that trace evidence.
And if you'll tell us a bit more about the emotional factor, about some of the counseling that has to be provided by the nurses. How do they go about it to be a nurse medically and also kind of like a emotional counselor in their time of need?
Well, the nurses have to remain objective. They are nurses, and they can certainly document any injuries and address those injuries if they're minor. If they find something that is out of their realm of practice, they can certainly refer the person back to the emergency department or their primary physician. And in order to do this type of exam, they have to remain objective. When it gets to the court, to be an expert witness, you can't be that supportive of the victim. You have to be supportive of the science of forensics. And that's why we rely so much on our advocacy groups within the Kansas City area. They are the ones that come in and help hold hands and provide a lot of the emotional support for the exams. And our work could not be done without their assistance.
And tell us a bit more about support when it comes to, for the victims, are there support groups in the area, or where should they turn to handle the emotional aspect?
Here in the Kansas City area, we have MOCSA, M-O-C-S-A, Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault. We also have our domestic violence shelters for women that are involved in an interpersonal episode, and we can certainly get them housing if there's an issue regarding that. We work very closely with them as well. And there are several in the city, such as Rose Brooks or Synergy House, House of Hope, Hope House. There's several of the shelters around the area. So we also work with Veronica's Voice, and yes, women who are in the sexual trade can also be assaulted. And so we have an advocacy group for them. We also have a gay and homosexual advocacy group here in town that we work with as well. We provide our services to men and women from the age of 14 on up. So sexual assault can occur to anyone, any age.
And tell us a bit, if you'll share with us the statistics when it comes to the population that actually are sexual predators and how a person can be convicted. I understand it could be quite difficult.
Well, the predators who are out there, the predators are usually serial rapers. They don't just do one sexual assault and quit. They do multiple, and they develop their own little style of how they approach a person, and they tend to prey on people who don't have very much self-esteem. They also prey upon younger children who trust adults. They prey on our elderly people in the nursing homes and in our homes for our patients that have some mental capacity problems. Unfortunately, those people are ones that are most likely to be assaulted. When these people assault, because the people know them, they're more likely not to have injuries. And unfortunately, when you go to a jury, they think that the victim should have injuries. And 95% of the time, victims don't have obvious injury, which makes prosecuting these cases difficult for our juries.
And what would you say are some of the most common issues that come across when you're going to trial for a sexual assault?
Well, I think it's our victims' problems also, because they hear about cases, of course, in the news, and they realize what the media can do to a victim if they report sometimes, and they can be unsure that they may not be aware of what we can do to help them, even though we're working with them, that we will support them if they decide to prosecute. Some of them just don't feel like they can go through with a jury trial. And that may not be what they need either. So not every person who is sexually assaulted necessarily wants to go to trial. And that's something that needs to come out through subsequent counseling with the different agencies that we refer our patients to.
We're about to take a pause here for a short commercial break, but for our listeners, stay tuned with us. We'll be right back. Time for a short commercial break. We will be right back with Rebecca Hierholzer after these messages.
As a teacher, I've discovered that whenever I need assistance in teaching my students who are either way ahead or way behind their age peers in their learning needs, I go directly to the books and materials of Susan Weinbrenner. As a seasoned author and consultant, she's helped thousands of teachers help their students in ways that are user-friendly and completely manageable in mixed-ability classrooms. Parents of children with exceptional learning needs also appreciate her practical suggestions to use at home and to share with their child's teachers. Susan's materials are described on her website at www.susanweinbrenner.com. That's spelled WINEBRENNER. Her Speakers Bureau provides professional development opportunities that greatly appeal to educators, since they describe strategies that are very user-friendly and easy to implement, as well as cluster grouping, an important paradigm shift in the delivery of gifted education services to become part of the regular classroom at very little cost to the district. For more information on how the new Cluster Grouping Consortium can help your district, email Susan Weinbrenner directly at skywine76@gmail.com for education consulting service.
Is your medical facility and medical equipment all accredited? Doctors and hospital administrators know that medical facilities need successful accreditation, and insurance companies only work with accredited facilities. So don't waste another minute. Go to www.therapyphysics.com for equipment evaluation, shielding design, and radiation safety training for both diagnostic imaging and radiation therapy healthcare organizations. Medical physics services for accreditation provided by Therapy Physics Incorporated have a 99% pass rate on the first submission and meet or exceed requirements for accreditation and regulatory compliance. So contact Therapy Physics Incorporated by visiting www.therapyphysics.com today. Spotlite Radio, the best place to promote your business. We are the only social media marketing firm with real radio shows advertising your business.
When it comes to your business, a Spotlight Radio interview is the most innovative and personal advantage on marketing and networking.
Spotlight Radio can do it all. We create professional press releases to advertise your company online so clients can easily find you, displaying your services and credentials.
Spotlight Radio also presents awards, plaques, corporate directories, and the most high-end professional radio commercials.
So shine the spotlight on your business today. Call 631-589-6000 to become an elite member of Spotlight Radio.
Remember, it's all in who you know. Call 631-589-6000 today. And we are back with Spotlight Radio guest Rebecca Hierholzer. Before a break, Rebecca was going into some statistics when it comes to sexual assault and also about when it comes to going in, what her company does, the nurses who are there to help the victims, especially when it comes to testings, etc. So now, Rebecca, if you'll tell us a bit about the case that happened in Kansas City.
A young woman, married with children, lived across the street from another couple that had children, and their children played together in the yards, and they thought they were good friends, and the neighbors had a Halloween party. So the children went to babysitters, and the couples all got together for the Halloween party. The young lady in question had a little to drink, but she was feeling a lot more tippier than she normally felt, and she was feeling a little sick, so she went to the bathroom. Her friend's neighbor followed her into the bathroom and locked the door behind them. And they were in there for a while, and she was kind of in and out. She wasn't exactly sure what happened, but she was very uncomfortable during the whole thing. And he left the door open, and she walked out, and she was still kind of confused, and she was looking for her husband, and she found him downstairs, and he was also very sick and not feeling good. And the next morning, she felt even more uncomfortable, and she got a call from a friend who said, "You might need to go be checked." So she went to a hospital, and she had an exam by a forensic nurse examiner, and all the evidence was collected, including the dress that she was wearing for the Halloween party. They went to talk to the detective, and the detective thought, well, they're all friends. You're just trying to say that this happened because you're trying to cover up an affair that you're having with this man. And she said, absolutely not. And she felt horrible. She knew something happened, and so she went to a legislator in the area, and they went to the main prosecutor in the county, and he took the case. They went to court, and only one juror could understand how this could happen. That even though they were friends, how this man still could have perpetrated this crime. The dress that she was wearing had been submitted as evidence, and they had the dress in the courtroom. She took the dress and put it on, and she said, "This could have happened to me just as well as it happened to her." She was able to convince the jury to find him guilty. The problem was he did not receive a very big sentence, and within a short time, he took his family and moved to Texas. While he was in Texas, he perpetrated a sexual crime against a child this time. So, people that you think are your friends may not be your friends, and yes, that friend can certainly perpetrate a crime, and in this case, he probably had other crimes, not just this one against her here in Kansas City. So, That's what we really need to get our juries to understand. These are the types of perpetrators that are out there. Like I said, not the people that jump out behind the bush and grab you. They are the people that you know. And that's what makes, once again, prosecuting these crimes very difficult.
Well, that's definitely a very sad story and a very difficult case, and also a very common factor. So when it comes to the perpetrators that are serial rapists in a way, what are some signs? How can we realize what's going on before it's too late?
Well, luckily, only about 9% of the male population are probably predators. And there are very few that commit just one crime. And that's probably somebody who's younger, who also may have been having a little alcohol to drink and may have had their thoughts a little muddled, and something may have happened, and they had the capacity to feel shame. The other people who are perpetrating these crimes, the much larger percentage, don't have that feeling of shame when it comes to these types of things. And multiple studies of perpetrators show that men can have up to 400 different cases of rape before they're ever sent to prison. And that's the thing that we need to change. We need to let our victims know that we understand this, that we'll be there for them, that we will believe what they're saying, and the only thing that we can do as people is to start believing, start helping victims this way. By that, you're making a difference, and you're going to help end violence against women and men.
And tell us a bit about your site for listeners to check out the site as well to find out more. That's www.coversa.org. That's COVERSA.org. Tell us more about your site.
Right, and we're also on Facebook. And on our site, we do accept PayPal for donations. We're trying to get the word out to our local area about this. We would like to start a writing type campaign with postcards or some mailers or maybe even some road signs to try to get the word out to our juries here in the Kansas City area to start really knowing about sexual assault, the perpetrators that are out there, and how that they can respond to these victims when they are chosen to be in a jury.
I'm looking at your site right now. Tell us a little bit more about SANE and what that stands for, what that is.
SANE, that is a sexual assault nurse examiner. A sexual assault nurse examiner must have had at least 40 hours of classroom instruction. And here in Kansas City, we actually have a class where they come in and through medical models learn how to do pelvic examinations. And they get their physical training as well. And they have to do a certain number of exams before they could take their certification exam through the International Association of Forensic Nurses. Once they take the certification exam, they can be a sexual assault nurse examiner A for adolescent or adult, or they can be a sexual assault nurse examiner P for pediatrics. We just do the adolescent adult with Coversa. We have a very good pediatric program here in Kansas City through Children's Mercy Hospital. So we take the adolescent adult population, and Children's Mercy takes care of our pediatric population here in town.
And how can people reach out, volunteer, and donate?
Donate, like I said, they can go to the website. We do take PayPal. Our mailing address is on the website as well, and we can certainly take checks. We do have an office, and we need things, general things like an office needs, as simple as toilet paper and paper towels, and we have electrical bills to pay, and everything else that goes with an office. And although our board of directors takes no salary, I take no salary as medical director, our nurses are out in the middle of the night sometimes at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we do reimburse them for their time to do those exams. So we do have some salary to pay as well. We've had a little difficulty getting funding for some reason. People don't understand what we do, although more and more hospitals call us for our services. We have a contract pending with one hospital now, and we're meeting with another hospital on Thursday who wants our services, and if they both sign, we'll be up to 15 hospitals that we'll be covering. So we must be doing something right. We must be doing something good, that people still want our services. But we have to get more funding to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I must commend you. You have a very big heart and a really fantastic cause in your hands. You're working very, very hard to do some very important work to protect all of us out there, especially when it comes to women. And tell us a bit about the future of Coversa and any events you have coming up.
We are wanting to recognize the people who do this service here in the Kansas City area, not just with Coversa, but with 2 other hospitals that have programs within their hospitals. We have good detectives, we have good prosecutors, we have great advocacy people here, and we would like to recognize them. So we're planning an event in October to recognize the people who contribute to this and do the best. So we'll be doing a fundraiser in effort to recognize these people.
Excellent. So again, for our listeners to reach out and get in touch with Rebecca Hierholzer, the CEO and Medical Director at Coversa, based in Kansas City, Missouri. Definitely check out the site. Again, that's www.coversa.org, COVERSA.org, or email her directly, rhierholzer@coversa.org, spelled RHIERHOLZER@coversa.org. Remember, those donations are available on the website from PayPal. And also, if you are in the Kansas City area and you have been sexually assaulted, please dial 855-717-1136. Again, in the Kansas City area, and you may have been sexually assaulted. That's 855-717-1136. And for general information from the office, please dial 816-221-2187. Again, General Office of Coversa, 816-221-2187. And Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. And you've been listening to Spotlight Radio with special guest Rebecca Hierholzer. Tune in every day to hear from the most interesting people on SpotlightRadio.com.